This is a CBS News special report. I'm Jeff Glor reporting from CBS News headquarters in New York. Good afternoon. The House of Representatives completed congressional action today on a $1.5 trillion overhaul of the tax code, the first in 31 years. The Senate, with Vice President Pence presiding, passed it in the wee hours of the morning after making a few changes, and the bill will soon be headed to President Trump for his signature. In the meantime, the president is about to have a victory party at the White House. He is gathering Republican members of Congress on the South Lawn to celebrate the biggest legislative success of his presidency, which was accomplished without a single Democratic vote. The White House press corps is there as well. We do not know if the president will take questions, but his recent predecessors have traditionally held a pre-Christmas news conference to talk about their achievements from the past year. Major Garrett is on the South Lawn waiting for the president. Major, what are we expecting?
Jeff, welcome to an unseasonably warm afternoon here in December on the South Lawn. You can see arrayed behind me Republicans in the House and Senate, the combined leadership of the two chambers of Congress awaiting the president's arrival. And the president is here, Jeff, for a signature legislative accomplishment, one that many Republicans wondered if he'd have the political clout to accomplish, but in the end, he did, and on his time schedule. Here is the President of the United States.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, accompanied by the Vice President, the Speaker of the House, and the Senate Majority Leader.
All right, so as the president greets everyone, as Major noted, it'll be interesting to see what sort of questions the president takes, if any, beyond the tax bill, which he will first and foremost be talking about this overhaul, which, as we mentioned, is the largest tax overhaul since 1986, $1.5 trillion in total, providing a great deal of tax relief to businesses first and foremost. In the past, presidential predecessors have talked about other achievements from the past year, whether that's the president's successful nomination of Judge Gorsuch to the Supreme Court or other issues. We will wait and see. But this has been a victory lap that's been taking place for a couple days now. Paul Ryan involved as well. John Dickerson is with us as well as the president greets Republican members of Congress. Actually, want to hold off. Here's the president.
These are the people right behind me. They've worked so long, so hard. It's been an amazing experience, I have to tell you. Hasn't been done in 34 years, but actually really hasn't been done because we broke every record. It's the largest, I always say the most massive, but it's the largest tax cut in the history of our country, and reform, but tax cut. Really something special. And I noticed this just came out 2 minutes ago. They handed it to me. AT&T plans to increase U.S. capital spending $1 billion and provide $1,000 special bonus to more than 200,000 U.S. employees, and that's because of what we did. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And I have a whole list of accomplishments that the group behind me have done in terms of this administration and this Congress. But you've heard it before. Records all over the place. And that will continue and then some because of what we did. But $3.2 trillion, just think of it, in tax cuts for American families, including doubling the standard deduction and doubling the child tax credit. The typical family of four earning $75,000 will see an income tax cut of more than $2,000. They're going to have $2,000, and that's, in my opinion, going to be less than the average. You're going to have a lot more than that. One thing very important for the farmers, the great farmers and the great small business owners that were forced to sell their businesses at bargain basement numbers. We have provided, for the most part, estate taxes wiped out so they can keep their farms in the family, and that to me is a very big factor, very big. This is This is going to mean companies are going to be coming back. You know, I campaigned on the fact that we're not going to lose our companies anymore. They're going to stay in our country, and they're going to stay in our country. And you've been seeing what's been happening even at this prospect. But they have tremendous enthusiasm right now in this country, and we have companies pouring back into our country, and that means jobs, and it means really the formation of new, young, beautiful, strong companies. So that's going to be very, very important. The pass-throughs you know all about, and the small businesses are going to be big beneficiaries. We are going to bring at least $4 trillion back into this country, money that was frozen overseas and in parts and worlds, and some of them don't even like us, and they had the money. Well, they're not going to have the money long. And so it's really, I guess it's very simple when you think you haven't heard this expression, but we are making America great again. You haven't heard that, have you? I want to have them get up and get the glamour and the glory, and I just want to have a few of them come up, and they'll speak for a little while in short. If the shorter, the better. That way we can get all of you. We'll get everybody up, right? But I want to thank Mitch McConnell. I want to thank, what a job. What a job. And I want to thank Paul. They're going to speak. They're going to say a few words. But Paul Ryan and Mitch, it was a little team. We just got together and we would work very hard, didn't we? Huh? It seems like it was a lot of fun. It's always a lot of fun when you win. If you work hard and lose, that's not acceptable. But I'm just going to name a few names, and then some of them will come up. But people that I saw so much over the last month and really over the last almost year, because when you think of it, we haven't even been a year. And we did the largest tax cut in our history. I hate to say this, but we essentially repealed Obamacare because we got rid of the individual mandate, which was terrible. And that was a primary source of funding of Obamacare. And Anwar, so a friend of mine, oh, congratulations. And Dan, where's Dan? What?
Don, right behind you.
No, and Don, too. Where's Dan?
Thank you.
Where's Dan? Where's Sullivan?
He's not here.
Oh, okay.
Lisa Murkowski's over.
I'll tell you, between Dan and Don and Lisa, you've done a very great job. So a friend of mine called up about Anwar. He's in the Opus. He said, you didn't get Anwar. And I said, tell me about Anwar. He said, we've been trying to get that passed. The whole country, the world, they tried in Ronald Reagan. They tried with the Bushes. They tried with everybody. They never got Anwar, but we got Anwar in this bill. So we have Anwar, we have mandate, and we have the tax cut, and we have the reform. I mean, when you add up the size of this bill, it's really great. So, Lisa, thank you very much. Lisa Murkowski. So, John Cornyn, the great chairman, Orrin Hatch. Great job, Orrin. Wow. Orrin is a special person. Tim Scott, who has been so incredible. He's going to say a few words. Where's Tim? Where's Tim? Yeah, you pick it up. He's younger than I am. Thank you, Tim. Yeah, we're just going to go. I have it mostly memorized, but Tim Scott has been great. John Thune. Where's John? John. Great job, John. Rob Portman, a real student of the tax world. Rob, thank you very much. I want to thank, I said hello to John Cornyn, Pat Toomey. He has been, we rode together in Pennsylvania, but Pat, where's Pat? Pat, great job. He knows his business. Susan Collins, we want to thank. Susan's around someplace. Susan. Thank you, Susan. All friends. I mean, I look at these people. It's like we're warriors together. Kristi Noem on the House. We have Kristi Noem and Diane Black. Our great speaker, Paul Ryan, and he is a great speaker. Great job. Kevin McCarthy. Kevin. What a job, Kevin. We had fun. Did we have a good time? Steve Scalise. He's braver than all of us. He's braver. Where is he? Oh, boy, I don't know. He had a rougher year than most of us, but it's a hell of a way to lose weight, Steve. You said you lost it. It's not a good way. We love you, Steve. Great job. Great job. Kevin Brady. Kevin Brady. So maybe what I'll do is, and by the way, I mentioned AT&T, but many companies have come forward and saying they're so happy and they're going to be doing similar announcements. So we're going to see something that's going to be very special. We're bringing the entrepreneur back into this country. We're getting rid of all the knots and all the ties, and we're going to see. You're going to see what happens. And ultimately, what does it mean? It means jobs, 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 jobs. So it's going to be really a very special period of time. We're in a very special period of time, and it's going to be even more so. I want to thank everybody behind me. Maybe I could start with Mitch, and then we'll go to Paul, and then we're going to have a few of the folks come up and say a few words, and we'll have a little fun. Okay? Thank you. Mitch, how about you starting?
Well, let me just say, Mr. President, you made the case for the tax bill, but this has been a year of extraordinary accomplishment for the Trump administration. We've cemented the Supreme Court right of center for a generation. Mr. President, thanks to your nominees, we put 12 circuit court judges in place, the most since the circuit court system was established in 1891. You hold the record. You've ended the overregulation of the American economy. And that, coupled with what we did last night and what the House finished this morning, means America is going to start growing again. Thank you, Mr. President, for all you're doing.
First of all, what this represents is a promise that each and every one of us made to the American people last year is a promise that is kept today. Something this big, something this generational, something this profound could not have been done without exquisite presidential leadership. Mr. President, thank you for getting us over the finish line. Thank you for getting us where we are. Really. I just want to quickly just say a thanks, because this has been such a team effort from everybody. I want to thank Gary Cohn and Steve Mnuchin from the President's economic team for what they did to get us here. I want to thank my partner, Mitch McConnell, over in the Senate for getting us to where we are. And I want to thank these two chairmen, Orrin Hatch and Kevin Brady. Thank you so much for your leadership on this. It is really simple. The message to the hardworking taxpayers of America is your tax relief is on its way. That is what's happening here. The message to the families in America who've been struggling paycheck and paycheck, your tax rates are going down and your paychecks are going up. This is the kind of relief that Americans deserve. This is the kind of tax reform and tax cuts that get our economy growing to reach its potential. This gets us better wages, bigger paychecks, a simpler tax system. This gets the American economy competitive in the global economy. This is one of the most important things we could do for all of the people we represent. This is generational, and we're so excited that we're going to launch next year this fantastic tax reform so that the American people can see how we can truly reach our economic growth and our economic potential. And if it weren't for all the leadership of the men and women up here, this would not have been made possible. But lastly, I just want to thank the American people. I want to thank the American people for putting their trust in us, for giving us this chance and this ability to make this moment possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
A man who's been working very hard. Thank you, Paul. Very, very hard for a long period of time, and last night was very much a culmination, but I don't know if we'll have bigger moments, but we hope to. We're going to try. A very special guy and great friend of mine, Vice President Mike Pence.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for those kind words, but more importantly, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your boundless faith in the American people. And thank you for keeping your promise to see this Congress deliver the largest tax cut in American history before Christmas of this year. Merry Christmas, America. To members of our cabinet, to Leader McConnell, to Speaker Ryan, to all these members of Congress, thank you. Thank you not only for being here today for this special moment, but thank you for your leadership and support throughout this year. I truly do believe, Mr. President, that this will be remembered as a pivotal moment in the life of our nation. A day when the Congress answered your call and made history. But honestly, I would say to the American people, President Trump has been making history since the first day of this administration. We've been rebuilding our military, standing with our veterans. And just last week, President Trump signed one of the largest investments in our national defense since the days of Ronald Reagan. We've been defending our borders, upholding the rule of law. Illegal crossings on our southern border are down by more than 50%. And President Trump has been restoring American credibility on the world stage, standing with our allies and standing up to our enemies. As the President reflected earlier today, our NATO allies are paying more toward their common defense. North Korea is more isolated than ever before. This President's put Iran on notice and put the war on Afghanistan on a path to victory. And thanks to the leadership of this Commander-in-Chief and the courage of our armed forces, ISIS is on the run. Their capital has fallen, and their so-called caliphate has crumbled across Syria and Iraq. But what brings us here today is that President Trump also knows that American strength starts with a growing American economy. And from the first day of this administration, this president championed free and fair trade. He rolled back federal red tape at record levels. We've unleashed American energy, and today, Mr. President, you fulfilled the promise you made to millions of Americans struggling in this economy to cut taxes across the board for working families and businesses large and small. In August of this year, the President laid out his vision for a tax cut that would be a middle-class miracle, and that's exactly what the Congress passed today. This tax cut will put more money in the pockets of the American people. It'll make our tax code more simple, more fair, more easy to understand. It'll make businesses across America more competitive to create good-paying jobs and raise wages for working Americans. I can tell you I serve with him every day. President Donald Trump is a man of his word. He's a man of action. And with the strong support of these members of Congress, President Donald Trump delivered a great victory for the American people. We made history today. But as the President said when we gathered this morning, a few of us with a few less hours sleep than usual, we're just getting started. And I can assure you this President and this entire administration will not rest and relent until the forgotten men and women of America are forgotten no more. So thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your love for this country and the people of this country. And I know in my heart, with the strong continued support of the members of Congress who are gathered on these steps, and with God's help, you will make America great again.
Thank you, Mike, very much. A friend of mine, a very, very special man, Tim Scott. Tim, I'd like you to say a few words. He came in and he would solve some problems that we weren't looking too good a couple of times, and Tim was really, really a tremendous help. Thank you, Tim.
Well, Mr. President, during one of those conversations that we had, we talked about ways to improve distressed communities throughout this country. 52 million Americans living in distressed communities, and we talked about legislation that could move those communities forward. And you said yes. And as a part of this tax reform package, the Investing in Opportunity Act has been included, which will bring trillions of dollars into poor communities because of your willingness to listen.
Thank you. Thank you.
president said I only have about 45 more minutes, so I'm going to get to my... He didn't say that. Okay, got it. Let me just say to those Americans who are watching this process, this is not about Washington. It's not about the left. It's not about the right. It's about single-parent moms who are looking for a reason to be hopeful in 2018. This tax reform plan delivers for the average single mother a 70% tax cut. For the average family who's working paycheck to paycheck, looking for ways to be hopeful about their future, to have an extra night for dinner out at a restaurant. This tax reform package cuts their taxes by nearly 60%. And because of folks like Marco Rubio and Ivanka, when you think about the folks with kids in the household, this plan doubles the child tax credit and makes about 70% of it refundable. This is a plan that we can be proud of because it speaks to the hearts of everyday Americans.
Diane, come on up. Diane Black. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I want to thank all of the folks that are standing behind me because
as we listen to Diane Black speak here now, and the President introduces various members who helped shepherd this tax bill through. We're going to move over to John Dickerson if we could. John, the leadership is talking about this in pretty grand terms. Can you put this in perspective for us?
Well, sure. I mean, first, this is a huge win for the president and Republicans. This is, as they say, historic, but it's a particular win for the president. If you look at who is arrayed behind him, some people who've been extremely critical of him in his own party. Senator Corker was back there, Senator Graham. Senator Scott at one point had said the president had lost moral authority in the job. Senator Heller from Nevada back there, all of them arrayed behind him and singing the president's praises for his leadership and for doing something that was generationally historic. You heard the vice president also praise the president across a series of different range of different issues. So this is not only the president's Republican Party, this is the president's unified Republican Party in the big image there. Clearly, in the way they were selling this tax cut today, they were emphasizing the help that it will give to the middle class. There are certainly tax breaks in there for the majority of the middle class, but of course the proportion of the breaks go overwhelmingly to corporations. They were making it seem as though the benefits and wages and paychecks will happen immediately from the increased economic activity. Even the White House head of the economic advisors says it's going to take 3 to 5 years, but they're clearly stung by the charge and the belief widespread across the country that this tax package is tilted towards the wealthy and not towards the middle class.
John Dickerson, thanks very much. We'll see you again later tonight. But now over to Nancy Cordes on Capitol Hill. Nancy?
Well, you heard the House Speaker, Jeff, say that this is a promise kept to the American people. But what Democrats are highlighting today is all the promises that Republicans and the president made that do not show up in this tax plan. Most notably, Republicans said that this would simplify the code. It doesn't. Republicans and the president promised that the wealthy wouldn't benefit initially, and that doesn't happen as well. Republicans promised and still claim that they swept lots of corporate loopholes out of the tax code, and that just does not appear to be the case. So you get a sense now of the argument that Democrats are going to be making through the election year of 2018 as they try to convince the American people that this is a bad deal for them, Jeff.
Nancy Cordes, thank you very much. There'll be much more about all of this on your local news on this CBS station, on our 24-hour streaming news service, CBSN, and right here tonight on the CBS Evening News. Until then, with Major Garrett, Nancy Cordes, and John Dickerson in Washington, I'm Jeff Glor, CBS News in New York.